Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 342 of a year of change. We are quickly running out of time, but there were a couple things I wanted to actually do today that we haven't done in a long, long time. One of which has sort of fallen through. The first thing that I was going to do, it's been a long time since we introduced any new food, like just something different to try, and I know we sort of got away from that because we were doing like here's a snack thing and here's an option for that, and we sort of deviated away, yeah, that's good now, from food and stuff like that and focus more on exercise. But I wanted to just sort of do one more and say, remember we used to do this is fun and we can do this before everything ends. So I thought the one thing that I haven't tried yet, I've never tried, and something that I wanted to because I thought, you hear so much about it, is dragon fruit. So I thought, I'm going to try it, and generally what I'll do is I'll try the food first, and then I can get my opinion together, find all the information, and then I can record. So I thought, I'm going to try this, and if it's good, then I'll buy another one, and then I can show what it's like, and everything is great, which I probably still should have done. But I decided not to do it, mainly because it tastes like nothing. It really does. There's no taste to it whatsoever. It's imagine if you took a kiwi, like with all the seeds and everything else, made the texture a little more apple-y, not flavor-wise, just the texture, but then you sucked all the flavor out of it. And so it's like, it looks kind of neat, but I thought it was going to be like mushy or pulpy or something, but it's not. It's just like an Asian pear sort of thing. It's that same sort of texture, but there's no flavor to it whatsoever. It doesn't taste like anything at all. It doesn't even taste like an Asian pear. So I thought, there's really, I can't do a 10-minute video on this. It's just 10 minutes. But it's enough that I would have been done by now and said, hey, it doesn't taste like anything. But if you do want to try one, go try one. They're pretty expensive. They're like $4 each. And for what you get out of it, I mean, it's okay. But I even expected like the seeds to be a little more kiwi-like. But even those, they're the same texture as the flesh. It's really weird. So I decided, I'm not going to do that. But instead, I want to do something that we haven't done in a very, very long time. And it was something that I originally had planned on doing pretty much weekly. I have not really shared a story in a long time. And what sort of prompted this was, originally I was going to start talking about, every now and then we've been talking about an improvement. Usually it's something that you don't think about until you sort of sit down and it dawns on you, oh, I've done without this, or I've done without that, or I noticed that this is different. And I wanted to sort of talk about skin issues. Because being obese, it's just sort of a fact of life that we have. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. I mean, obviously it's because we're fat. But there are a number of different reasons and different things that people can get from mild to severe. And I don't mean just like, oh, no, I have acne or pimples or whatever. I mean, when you're eating, 6 or 7 times the amount of food that you need to, and it's all high fat and high sugar and high sodium, yes, you're going to get skin issues. So, I mean, there was always, like, I don't want to say dry skin, maybe oily, but it's sort of a part of what we deal with. But what I actually want to talk about are the more serious ones. And for any of you that are out there, you know what's coming. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, this is going to get pretty graphic and pretty gross. So if you're eating right now, you might want to watch this a little bit later. So I'm not going to show you anything gross, so don't worry. But there are a number of different problems. I can't remember the name of it. It starts with an A, and it's something nigris, I think. It's a darkening of the skin, usually in fats or folds of fat and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's a whole other issue. By the way, if you do have that, it will get better as you start losing weight. It's good. I have been blessedly free of that. So it's not something that I can really talk to. But one thing that we all share right across the board is something playfully called chub rub. And generally speaking, everyone sort of has an idea. It's that sound you make when you're wearing corduroys. It's voop, 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 voop when you're walking. Except you're not wearing corduroys. Even when you're naked, it's just voop, 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 voop. And it's not just that. Like usually everyone goes, okay, well, the inside of the thighs or whatever. But when you're obese, we get it everywhere. It doesn't matter because we have, rolls and folds and all sorts of other things going on. And so it can just sort of pretty much appear anywhere. And my nose is itchy yet again. Ugh. Sorry. So that's sort of what I want to talk about with this story. This goes back a couple of years, actually, at this point. I should preface this by saying, thankfully, I have not had any issues for a very, very long time. And you will find as you start losing weight that this just doesn't happen. So this will be a good thing. So for any of you out there that are still making progress, there is light at the end of the tunnel. But this is something that happened to me at least 2 years ago. I know that much. And just like always, was 325 plus pounds, whatever it was at that point. I wasn't weighing myself or anything, so I didn't have an idea. But I would imagine I'm probably hovering somewhere around 325 at this point, and my nose is really itchy. Ugh. Okay, I'm not going to pick my nose in front of you. Never mind. Anyway, so part of, the being fat and having hidden rolls and folds and gooey bits all over the place is that we don't have ready access, visually anyway, to the majority of our bodies. And let's face it, a lot of us don't want to take the time to go, I'm just going to look at myself in the mirror all the time. So, generally speaking, when we discover something that shouldn't be there, it's because it hurts. Not because, there's a slight discoloration on my thumb. No, we usually go, my thumb came off. That's not right. Something should be, that's not good. So, what had happened was, I don't know exactly what causes this. I would imagine there are a number of different things. Number one, obviously the food that we're eating, that just simply does not help at all. Being as fat as we are, where our bodies simply can't cope. We are designed to be 325 pounds. We simply aren't. We're just, unless you're like 8 foot something. But in general, we're designed to be within a certain weight range. And when you get beyond that, then your body starts acting in really weird ways and going all wonky on you. So I think that's sort of part of it as well. But a contributing factor, obviously, is also how we treat it. Now, for a lot of us, myself included, when we wear clothes, we try to get a size that is going to just fit. Our clothes get tighter. We don't bother buying. Well, we might buy new ones eventually when it gets to a point where you're actually splitting clothes, which I have done many times. But, we wear it so tight because this way we can fool ourselves into thinking, I'm not a size 50. It's fine. My waist, I'm still in the 40s. Everything is still golden. Even though I've bought the springy, elasticy jeans that go up by 6 inches. It doesn't matter. It says 48 on the waist, so I'm still not a 50. So I'm not that far gone. So we can still lie to ourselves that way. And then, of course, we wear it so tight it takes forever to get it on. We suck our gut in. We start tucking stuff in everywhere where it shouldn't be going and then everything else and rolling things up and stuffing them in our armpits and everything. And then finally get our clothes on and we're like, okay, that's good. And we simply can't do that for an extended period of time without there being some consequence to that. So I think that's I think that's sort of part of what had happened. I think that's what exactly happened, 100%. So what had happened was, there's, on top of all that, we're sweaty and everything is stingy and everything is red because we're always sweaty and there's not a lot of light gets in all the little crevices and everything else. So what had happened was, it's just like always, whenever we notice something like this, it's usually like we're in the shower or something and I felt a pain. How would I describe this? I was going to say on my side, but it's not my side. Under my gut, I guess is probably the best way to put it. I still have a gut. I still have a fairly big belly. But this is, 80, 90 pounds ago when there could be minors hiding in there. So, just when you're in there, you're okay, I gotta get in, get showered, get cleaned up, get ready for work, everything else. That's how I shower, by the way. Just like this, exactly like that. And I'm done. It takes 2 seconds. So, then I felt that I felt something sore. Not that it was that's an internal pain. It's, it felt like a cut or a sting or a scratch or something like that. So, of course, you get out and you're like, how the hell am I going to examine this? Because I have to, sort of roll things up and fold things over and take mirrors and, shots and everything else. And what it was what it looked like, I should say. Now, these are, I want to say edema. Or hematoma, something like that. It's not. I think it's anyway. It's a blood blister, is what it is. Because aside from everything else that we have going for us, like stretch marks and being sweaty and everything else, we do get these from time to time because our body isn't supposed to be the weight that it is. So what had happened was, in, I guess, the fold, probably the best way to put it, right where my hip should be, there was a blood blister. So, of course, me being me, and here's where things are going to start getting gross, just so you have fair warning. Of course, you're like, it's sore. It shouldn't be sore, and it's not something that I would have obviously noticed right away because I can't see anything. So it's not something that you're going to notice and go, oh, I have a slight, mark there that I should probably take a look at and fix up, and that way prevent everything that needs to happen. No, this would have obviously been, blistery for probably a couple of weeks at this point, but it didn't actually start hurting until that day. So, of course, at that point, everything is so far gone and things are just bad. So, anyway, sit there and like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? And, of course, in your head, you think, it's just a blood blister. You get them, we get them on our feet. We get them pretty much everywhere, and it's usually just something very harmless. This one still was kind of, but not really, because as I'm starting to go, you know what, I can just take care of this myself, and I go, okay, this is going to get real gross. So I think I'm just going to like lance it or pop it or something, just to sort of get everything out, because I have stuff that I can put on there, put a Band-Aid on, we'll be good. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. What ended up happening is, for lack of a better term, it ruptured. And I ended up holding a nice puddle of blood clot in my hand. Quite a big amount as well. Enough that I kind of went, what the fuck? This is a little too much to be in there. This does not look right. So, anyway, I think I better get rid of that. Like, blood all over my bathroom by the time this is all done. So I think, okay, I'm going to get this cleaned up. I have some Band-Aids. Things are good. Band-Aids are not going to solve this problem. Because what had happened was, because it had gone on for so long, it had just come to the surface, and that's why it was hurting. But it was very, very deep. So, of course, all this backed up blood and pus and everything else, and all the gooey, gross stuff, was sort of stuck in there for a long time, and finally went, I've had enough. I'm just leaving. So, of course, everything in there had just gone, I wouldn't say rotten, but it wasn't like, oh, God, it's like big chunks of flesh or anything. It's not as melodramatic as I'm making it sound. But it's enough in there that I looked at it and went, yeah, no. It looked like someone had just taken a spork and gone and dug a chunk out of me. Because everything in there had that's what had sort of come out in my hand was all the blood and leftover the dead tissue and everything else. And of course, now at the surface, there's just this ragged hole. And it's not a huge hole. It's it's the size of a quarter probably. I couldn't just go, hey, put my finger in there and fiddle around with stuff and everything else. But it was enough that it worried me. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to clean this up. Do I go to the doctor? I'm not going to go to the emergency, because obviously this is something, it was very obvious that it wasn't anything that was like, oh God, it's cancer. It was, no, I knew what it was. It's because I'm too fat, and this is just sort of a complication from that. So I had some antibiotics, like polysporin sort of thing. So I thought, you know what? I will just patch everything up. Things will be good. Band-Aid could not cover it. I ended up using great big bandages and getting polysporin and putting all that stuff on there, and pumping myself full of painkillers and not serious stuff like Tylenol and Advil and things like that, because it was sore. And I always have rubbing alcohol in my house. I'm not a big fan of the hydrogen peroxide. It fizzes and doesn't do anything. So I figure, you know what? Alcohol I know is going to kill everything. So clean everything up. Put some alcohol on there. Things are good. Yes, it stings, but I know it's sanitary at that point. And put a bandage on. Things are good. Now, to give you an idea how serious this went on for probably a couple of weeks before it was to a point where, and it was pretty bad. Like, I had to constantly clean it, and it was really just because I had a little rotten hole in my stomach that I never would have noticed, and obviously didn't notice for a very, very long time because of the weight. So once everything had just gone everywhere, and got everything cleaned up and stuff, that's what I had to deal with. And because of where it was, it's right pretty much where my waist would be, where your gut sort of where your waist turns into your belly at that point. So trying to like lift everything up and patch everything in and make sure that everything was covered so that, it was okay, and then still go to work because, again, still wearing clothes the same way. So, your jeans and your belt and all the other stuff that I don't know why I'm wearing a belt. There's no way it's going to keep anything up. Of course, is rubbing against it all day as you're walking around and doing stuff. And actually, when I was at work, I had to change the bandage because you just know, you're like, I know it's not where it needs to be. So I had to go into the bathroom, change everything up. But I was lucky I was working overnights with just one person at that point. So I went out to my car, got all my stuff, and went in. And you don't want to tell a coworker and say, well, I'm so fat and there was a gross rotten blood blister that popped and I have to clean all that stuff up, because it's embarrassing. So, of course, you make up something, which is so much better, because then it just sounds weird because you're trying to think on the fly, because you don't expect them to go, well, what's wrong? So, I said, the cat had scratched me, so I have a scratch on my stomach. I'm not going to show them, obviously, but because you don't want to tell them, and then it sounds like you're being really evasive, and then they're like, what's wrong? And you're like, no, I just need to go, I have to get a bandage, and like, what is it? Like, nothing. And then, of course, inevitably, you're like, it's not my balls. All right, it's fine. And then, of course, they're like, well, obviously it is. So you just say instead, no, it was the cat that scratched me. I was trying to fuck it. There we go. That's much better for some reason. Anyway, so, you can't tell anybody, obviously, that it's because I'm too fat and I get this and I get that and all the other horrible stuff. And you would think at that point that even then, that may have been something that's, my God, I need to do something because my body is literally falling apart at this point. But it never seems to. It just turns into another, oh God, I'm fat, I'm gross, I hate myself, and then you just eat more. And as I say, I have not had any issues like that since that. To give you an idea, I still have a scar. And it's, probably part of it is because it didn't go, it wouldn't have needed stitches or anything like that. It wasn't that serious. Think of like the absolute worst sunburn that you've ever had. It sort of reminded me of that, or if you had a really bad injury, and just how it heals, and it's, you need to keep cleaning it and everything else. It was pretty much like that. But I still have, a dark mark where, it's still healing. It's been 2 years. And because there was so much damage done there that it needs to eventually heal itself. But since then, things have gotten way, way better. Everything from, big things like that to little skin issues, and, because I'm eating healthier, so, our skin starts to clear up. Not this. This is going to sound really bad now, because this is actually a scratch. Not from the cat. It's okay. This is from me. I just was scratching my nose, and then it went, and for some reason, I don't even have nails, because I don't chew my nails anymore, but I just apparently slashed my face open. So yeah, that was great because I did it at work. How awesome is that when you're sitting there and you're like, ow, hurt myself. And then it's just like, bleh. Anyway, off topic there. But, a lot of the skin issues have they've cleared up because your skin in general clears up because we're eating healthier. We aren't eating things that are packed full of sugar and fat and salt and everything else. We can still have that from time to time, but nowhere near what we were doing before. To give you an idea, think eating an entire tub of icing, what that will do to your skin when you have that much sugar in you that it's just your body can't hack it. It needs to get rid of it somehow. So, of course, your skin gets really bad and things like that, and which makes you feel worse, and, of course, then you eat more. So, for those of you that are out there that are still going through stuff like this, it does get better. As you start losing weight, you aren't going to run into the same issues that you had before, whether it's something, big like that. No, I'm not going to show you. Don't worry. It's not going to be gross. Because then I would have to take my top off, and that's not going to happen. Or my shirt, my top. It sounds, I don't know. My gentleman's blouse. I'm not taking my shirt off to show you. Because it's still where your hip. See, I don't know, because I've never had hip bones or a waist or anything like that. It's generally in that big fat area where my pants go. That's the only way I can describe it. So, things like that. They've gone away entirely. I don't run into any issues like that anymore. Even the little, voop, 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 corduroy sound, that is gone, thankfully. It's weird because we're so used to it. We're so used to just always being uncomfortable, being too hot and being too sweaty, and I just spit on my hand. and everything just itchy and sore and red because we're it's not because we don't shower, obviously, but things get stuck in there, like stuff. I can't think of an example. But we have rolls and folds and everything else, and it's just sweating there all the time when you're doing something for 8 hours. It's going to cause problems. So a lot of that does go though as you start losing weight, and it's going to be way way different when we're down to a normal weight. But if you are going through stuff like that, like skin issues or gross things like that, or the your skin, you find there are patches where it's a little bit darker, those will start to heal, for lack of a better term. It does start to improve as you start losing weight, because your body starts functioning a little bit better. It starts, you're getting down to a more normal weight. And even if you're still, if you're just starting out, you're just making the progress, and you're still at that stage that when you're just starting out, where you're still sort of stuck, 2 or 3 or 400 pounds. I mean, I'm still in the 200s. I'm like just hovering around 235, 240. So I'm still in there with you. And, if you're at that stage where you're just starting to lose, you're not seeing it yet, it will happen eventually. Just like the weight loss happens eventually, just like the cardiovascular health improves, everything happens eventually. These small changes that we're making, all of these things will help contribute to this. And especially with something like this, where our outward appearance is something that we are very much aware of. But generally, it's just sort of, I think for many of us, we just get an overall sense of size, and that's it. And that's really how we judge ourselves. But when you start adding in additional things that you think, even if I wasn't fat, I'd still have this, and I'd still have that, and I'd still have this. It compounds it, and it starts adding and adding and adding to, and no wonder we stay where we are for so long. We never really hit that moment where we go, this is my wake-up call, I need to do something. I should have gone to the doctor. I should have had someone actually look at it and say, okay, well, this is what you need to do, get prescription antibiotics and things like that, instead of just going and buying stuff over the counter and saying to people, no, I have a small scratch on a place that you can't see in my hand. That's all it is. Because that embarrassment, just saying, admitting to someone, well, no, I have an issue because I'm obese, or at this stage, I'm super obese. And trying to just get that out is terrible, to especially, even to friends or family, it's going to be bad, let alone strangers or coworkers or anything like that. So, I don't know if there's any way to make you feel any better, other than the fact that as you start progressing, our diet has improved greatly. So I guarantee you that at least some of you have seen an improvement. And for the rest of you, if you don't think that you have, think back. Because just the fact that we've improved our diet, eating more fiber, we've cut out a lot of fat, and even the fat that we do have, a lot of it is healthy fat. We've cut way back on the sugar, which is a huge thing for us. We're starting to exercise more. Just in general, our health has been improving. And part of that is, the dermatological issues as well. There's a nice big word for you. So as we start losing the weight and we feel better about ourselves, we get healthier, we start looking better in general to ourselves and to other people. Like, let's not, say, oh, no, you have to love yourself first. Part of what we're trying to do, we want to be able to, say, you know what, I look okay. I look good. I don't look as bad as I did before. That's part of it anyway. So, my nose is really, really itchy. There we go. So as this starts improving, then, we feel better about ourselves, and that boosts us to keep going and to take that next step and to say, okay, you know what, I'm exercising now. I feel better. I feel like I look better. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. I want to watch my diet. I'm not going to have that cheat day that I had planned, last weekend. Instead, I'm going to, eat normally like I have been throughout the past week. Or, okay, you know what, I'm going to increase my exercise a little bit here. Or, yeah, I think I'm ready to add that first day of vigorous exercise. Whatever it is, these are the little things that are going to keep us going. And, that eventually you'll hit these little, non-scale milestones. I've had a couple of these this week. This isn't one of them. The skin thing is just something I was like, yeah, I haven't really had any issues. It wasn't anything like, oh, I finally got rid of my gigantic, leprous limbs. It's something that I thought of and went, I haven't had any issues because they were fairly common. Like every couple of months there'd be something new. Like, okay, well, that's not right. But you don't see it right away because there's all this stuff in the way. There's still stuff in the way. Let's not kid ourselves. There is still a lot of stuff in the way. But it's easier to get to now. That's the main thing. But it does get better. And as your health improves, your attitude improves, and you're going to want to keep going. And then that's just going to start snowballing. So instead of us going back into that cycle of I feel bad, so I eat more, and that makes me feel bad, so I eat more, then it's really, I start feeling better. Whether it's, because of your numbers on the scale, whether it's because you can fit into a different pair of clothes, or pair of jeans, pair of clothes, whether it's because you look at yourself and think, you know what, this is cleared, my skin is cleared up, or I can, walk up this hill that I couldn't before. And then with that comes, okay, you know what? I want to keep going. I want to keep trying. I want to, even if you're staying at the same pace that you're at now, that it's working, then that's going to keep you going. And then you're going to notice new things again and say, you know what, this is going to give me that little boost so that I don't fall back as often. And you want to keep going. And it would be nice, at the end of this year that we can get to a point where our cycle is, I feel better, so I work harder. And that makes me feel better, so I work harder, and then I feel better. And just to leave all that shit behind us. And I don't think it's ever going to be completely gone, but I think that, with time, we'll be able to look back and it will seem a little bit different than it is right now, where it wasn't just a matter of us going, I can't even face it at that point. I think that it's going to get to a point where you'll be able to look back and say, yes, it was tough being in that situation, but I'm out now. And in turn, you'll be able to help other people with it as well. And I think that's really sort of a common theme that goes through a lot of people that we've met. And anyone that has lost weight in the past, they're always willing to help other people because they remember what it's like to be in that situation where you're going, no, don't touch anything. I'm fine. Everything is good. And just overall having that shitty feeling. But in general, it does get better. For many of you that are out there that have either gone way past me or are still losing weight, you understand that it is getting better. And for those of you that are just starting out, keep trying, because whether you fail or succeed or anything else, as long as you keep trying, you will eventually find something that's going to get you to that point that you'll be able to continue on, and then you'll be able to say, you know what, this does work. This makes me feel better, so I don't want to eat. I want to keep going and eventually get to where we need to be. So anyway, there was a gross story for you. I figured I would share that. It's been a long time since I shared an actual story, and this was one that I probably wouldn't have been able to tell a few months ago because it still would have been a little too embarrassing. But it's a couple of years old now, and I'm in a much better place than I was then. And sorry if any of you are now kind of going, yuck. But I think it's something important. We do have to share from time to time, and hopefully, I think that's the worst one I have, but I will try to think of another one that I maybe could have told before the year's up. I'd like to be able to share it from time to time. But for right now, I'm going to leave this video here, so thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I'll see you in the next video.